on Timber Ridge.
That's me, I know everything.
We paid like $7,000 for the engineering.
Call to order, City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. If I could get a roll call, please.
Gesme.
Here.
Grote.
Here.
Jepson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Cronenberger.
Here.
Lundell. Montgomery.
Here, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could get a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
The second is, so Ryan introduced and then Lisa with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That gets us to public input. Public input is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the City Council. The public input will be no longer than 30 minutes in total length. Each speaker will have no more than 3 minutes to speak. Speakers may address topics relevant to the governance of the city. Speakers must sign up in advance, must provide their name, address, and the topic they intend to address. Comments must be on topic, respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to the applicable data privacy rules. Any speaker that violates these rules will be asked to sit down, and if the speaker refuses to comply, they may be removed from the meeting. Speakers shall not address topics that are the subject of a public hearing. All such comments shall be made at the public hearing. The City Council will not generally act on issues raised by the public input, but may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda. Now, the two biggest issues that we have tonight have already had their public hearing. However, we still only have 4 people who have signed up, so we're going to allow this, but I am going to hold you to your 3 minutes, okay? All right. So to lead off, we got Ferlin Miller.
Good evening. I'm here for the Cannon Valley Fair. I live on Minnesota Street. I would just like to ask to have the A pulled and not even heard. Any questions for me?
All right. Thank you. Next up, we got Paul Anderson.
Good evening. I represent a group of citizens who support the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny the Cannon Valley Fair's request for a text amendment. We are also against the granting of any permits or conditional use permits for motorized racing within city limits. Many of us have sent emails listing our concerns, which include specific legal rulings supporting the reasons the racetrack should not exist in city limits. The following are the consolidated key points that we need to have considered and addressed by the City Council. The first is why the Cannon Valley Board and Cannon River Raceway are allowed to bypass city, county, and state requirements. The Cannon Valley Fair is a district fair, yet the Fair Board has operated as an autonomous organization with all the privileges of a county fair. While we value the fair's importance to the community, July 1st through the 6th, we do not appreciate the unilateral decision to break state, county, and city noise ordinance rules for the other 359 days a year. The second, we want to understand how the city is going to address the citizen complaints. Citizen complaints were filed with the Pollution Control Agency as early as June 10th. During a follow-up call with a PCA representative on August 12th, we were informed that the PCA reached out to the city on 2 occasions to coordinate the transfer of noise measuring equipment without success. In addition to the PCA complaints, there were many noise complaints that were sent to the police during race events that were not addressed, and so far, no actions have been taken to enforce the state noise ordinances. Our next point, the Princeton Speedway should not be held up as an example of a track built within city limits. The Princeton track was built in 1956. State noise ordinances apply to tracks built after 1996. The better examples are expensive, precedent-setting failures of the 2 proposed Minnesota tracks since the 1996 statute came into effect. Motorsports Park in Eagle Lake pulled their plans after the Minnesota Court of Appeals rejected their proposal twice. Wolf Creek, Audubon withdrew their application. After a post-environmental assessment, they were required to complete an environmental impact statement. Our final point, has the city considered future expenses related to the text amendment or conditional use for motorized racing within the urban zones of city limits? There are three things that need to be considered. The first, the Handbook of Minnesota Cities includes the liability chapter that states, anytime a city makes a zoning decision without affording affected property owners due process, liability may also arise. Except for the recent Planning Commission meeting on 8/18, there's been no due process regarding the track. Additionally, two separate realtors have confirmed with the State Legal Counsel for Realtors that disclosure of a racetrack is mandatory. Anything that impacts the use and enjoyment of one's property must be disclosed by the property seller. So even if the seller is not bothered by the noise, the realtors are required by law to disclose this fact. And finally, any action taken by the council to enable the Fair Board that leads to decreased real estate values opens up the city for subsequent financial repercussions. A recent ruling by the Minnesota Supreme Court had the city of Rochester writing a $160,000 check to a property owner for their lost value due to rezoning that resulted in noise pollution. So as stated in one of our emails to the council.
Paul,
Yes,
time's up.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Kurt Beisel. Beisel. I've heard it both ways. I apologize.
It's not a town here.
Kurt Beisel, live up on the west side, 1231 Minnesota Street West. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. What I have is just a letter that I sent to the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago on August 19th. I'd like to just read that and just some comments at the end there. In May of 2023, concerns regarding noise, environmental, and other issues resulting from the track's construction and operation were raised during an open forum during a regular city council meeting. In advance of the meeting, a petition was circulated to the affected neighbors on the west side. Over 100 people who had the chance signed it. During the meeting, all assurances were given by the Fair Board and by the racetrack developer to the council, to the citizens in attendance, and to the subsequent local newspapers that the noise from go-karts would be minimal. We were misinformed by the Fair Board and the Cannon River Raceway. The amendment should not be approved. Consider the following. 1, in addition to go-karts or kid carts, many heats include micro sprint cars with 600 cc's and up to 140 horsepower engines that are allowed to race. These burn alcohol, and they have the ability of going up to 100 miles an hour in open track. Number 2, the Cannon Valley Fair is not a county fair, and it is subject to the zoning regulations of the City of Cannon Falls and Goodhue County. Minnesota Statute 116.07, Section 1.4 states, local governing agencies are relied upon to enforce noise standards related to local land use. Number 3, Cannon River Raceway LLC, Minnesota registration, is a separate entity from the fair and should be subject to all county, state, and city ordinances and regulations. Number 4, additional statute 116.0 states that tracks built after 1996 must comply with state noise ordinances. The statute has ensured that no track since 1996 has received permission to build in or near a community of citizens. Number 5, further, a discretionary environmental review should have been undertaken before any groundwork was broken for the track to determine the adverse environmental impacts. The Minnesota Federation of County Fairs does not recognize the Cannon Falls Fair, nor is it listed as a county fair. Due diligence was not performed to assure the Fair Board status prior to construction. No other entity would be allowed to begin construction without their full understanding of their legal status or charter. This cannot be overlooked. I ask whether a project of this kind would be a consideration on the east or south side of Cannon Falls within the urban expansion areas. Should residents and property on the west side be looked at any differently? If so, explain why. The Cannon Falls Fair Board is asking for a change in the text amendment allowing motorized carts within city limits, a request which has already shown to create turmoil within our community. The Cannon Falls City Council has absolutely no obligation to the Fair Board, It does, however, have a responsibility to ensure that decisions made are in the best interests of their residents. I appreciate your time and commitment to our community and ask that you now support the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny the text amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. And last one, Brandon Allison, Bethel's Rock Church.
Good evening, Mayor Montgomery, City Council. My name is Brandon Allison, 5404 312 Street Path, Cannon Falls. I'm coming as a pastor of a church. We planted here in November of 2022. We've been going pretty strong. We're excited to be here. We really enjoy being here. We actually had just in June officially became our own general council church through the Assemblies of God. So we are Cannon Falls specific and Cannon Falls own church. So we're pretty excited about being here. As I said, my family and I moved here. We really enjoy Cannon Falls. We've also brought other people too. I know we have the Fishers have moved to town just because of the church. And then we have the Johnsons that moved here that were under a short-term one-year lease and they had no plan on staying, but they found a church community in our church and they said that they're looking to now buy and stay here in town. With a church, you know, there's a lot of different things. I know there's loss of tax, but there is economic benefits and the presence of a church can enhance property values. But not only that, but like I said, it can bring people in from all different areas. Also with the existing zoning, the B2 district is primarily intended for commercial use. However, it is worth noting that many religious institutions are operating successfully in commercial areas, providing positive and stabilizing presence. From research of surrounding cities, as well as Goodhue County, many allow for religious institutions to operate within B2 or similar districts as well. I believe Zach can confirm that. And then also with the currently permitted uses of B2, it allows for theater, office, clinical, general hospitality, a commercial daycare, all similar activities to that which a church does. And we're just asking for a religious institution to operate under B2 to be request to really have equal footing in there. And we do have community support. I've actually spent time talking to other business owners within B2, and I brought letters with me from the Valley View Recovery Center, from Dan Curran, owner of Specialty Industry, Josh at Allied Valve, Kevin Manley, who owns Muddy Duck, Marlene Banks and her husband Bob for Banks Outdoors, and I've talked to many more that I don't have support letters with that would be within that same zoning and operating. And really, the Grand O2, it's really the best opportunity. We've looked into other opportunities in town. We actually looked at the Terrace right after they closed it down. And even at that time, the mold in there was so severe. It would cost so much back then. We tried reaching out to the owner, and they wouldn't even respond to their own realtor. We tried, and then we again, just to appease, tried again about a month ago with no avail, and I can't imagine what it looks like inside. We just honestly couldn't financially support even redoing that place, let alone trying to operate out of there. But with the current building, you know, there's vacancy that's been around for quite a few years. We'd be able to walk in and operate pretty shortly, and really, it's just the best opportunity for us in town, and it would allow the First Congregation to be able to have their facility back fully to themselves, which they've been so gracious to allow us to use. But I know they're looking forward to it. So thank you so much for your time and consideration, and thank you for listening to me out. God bless.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to consent agenda. Consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. Tonight, item A, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending August 28th, 2024. Item B, meeting minutes for August 20th, 2024 City Council meeting. And item C, resolution 2779 approving James Hernke vacation request. Are there any questions from the council? Diane?
And I don't want to pull it down if I can, oops, didn't go on the finance report, under general fund, page 2 of 4 or something. Anyway, it says engineering, Timber Ridge observation, 5,000 some. We pay that, or does the developer reimburse us for that?
That's all reimbursable.
So they'll,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's in the developer's agreement. I believe it was like 23,000 or 22,000.
Okay.
That was paid upon the signing of the developer's agreement.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I'd approve a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Diane,
Second.
second from Ryan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Gets us to council business. Item A, the Cannon Valley Fair application. Before we open this up, per Ferland's request during public input, is this something that we would table, or is this something that we should follow the Planning and Zoning Commission and have a vote?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given that comment, and I've reviewed the application, my understanding is that the application is submitted by the Fair Association itself as the property owner. As an association, it is an incorporated entity which speaks through its board, or it's, through a resolution. And without that here, I do appreciate the. Board member of the fair. Right, but a board member in the singular does not have the authority to speak for the entire board. I mean, if that's the direction of the board, we need more than that.
What do you need from it? Because that's what they put me out here to do, is represent this.
Zach, if we have time, under 1599, one option would be to table it, which would give us and staff time to make that official if that is what the applicant wants to do. As council is aware, decision needs to be made on a pending application. So you do have some risk. I mean, we need to make sure a final decision is made if in fact the application still stands. If it's pulled, then it's pulled and there would be no action required.
Are we within that 60 days, something or other?
July 30th.
So we'd have till,
End of the month.
September 28th.
so we'd have another meeting before then?
So we have another council meeting before that?
Yes, so you would have Councilmember Cronenberger, you would have another council member if in fact meeting, sorry.
Yeah.
And so that could be taken up on the next meeting. The risk to the property owner, of course, if a decision is made, a decision is final and does have some ramifications in terms of reapplication and things of that nature. So it's something to consider as you're thinking through your options.
Any discussion from the council at this time?
Well, I mean, the application, Ferland is the one who made it on behalf of the fair, so if he and the fair want to pull it, I mean, and they probably have to come in and officially do it, I would think, but we could table it.
Or you can
until
just
that's
vote
done.
it down and be done with it. Then he doesn't have to come back in.
Well, yeah. I think if it's voted down, they can't reapply for, is it a year, 6 months? And maybe, yeah. Yeah, whatever.
Just table it and let him think about it.
Well, were you suggesting table it or
Well,
come to a
either
vote?
way, I was just bringing out the other point.
Yeah. If the council prefers to come, I mean, discretion of the council, if they prefer to come to a vote and have a discussion on the application for zoning that's in front of us tonight, we can definitely do that.
Ferland, you're pretty sure the Fair Board would do a resolution to pull it from the agenda?
Yes, we don't feel that it's the proper way to handle it with the ramifications throughout the whole city.
Okay.
We were intended or led to believe that it was just that little piece we're talking about, not the whole city. We never wanted it for the whole city. That's not our intent.
Okay.
Then,
We table it
So I
then?
would then think we should table it and allow the Fair Board
I'm
time to do an official resolution.
Shelley?
One other option would be you can remand it, if you will, back to the Planning Commission for, we'd say further consideration, but it would be to allow staff to work with the property owner to determine if there are questions, because I did hear some issue or some concerns about what the request means, and there might be a need for clarity, or at that point, they could decide to pull it as well, since it's before a final decision.
so back to my original question.
You could do that as well.
If we're doing all that, and we're still being held to that 60-day thing. Is there any way that can be pushed out?
Ask for an extension.
Yes, Councilmember Gasme, Mayor Montgomery, you can extend that. I'm not sure if that would be needed in this case. It sounds like this could come to a final quick resolution one way or another, but it would be extendable if there would be a need for more time.
But that would mean not back to planning commission, because that would push it back.
If we just table it, but ask for an extension of time, because I don't think we're gonna be ready in 2 weeks.
No, we won't.
I don't think.
I will not be present in 2 weeks. I will be in Chicago for work.
If you guys, if it was extended, we could be here in the next month meeting, regular council meeting, because then we'll have been through our meeting and be able to fill out or whatever we need to do. So the next council meeting with the extension, we would be here at that one to take care of.
So you're,
Not the one that's
not the later September, October 1?
October 1.
October 1?
We could have all the done.
But then I won't be here.
Right after this one.
And you won't be here?
Nope.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If they pull it and we receive documentation supporting that, technically the council, there would be nothing for the council to act upon at the next meeting if you were to table it tonight.
Yeah,
Then, yeah.
because, yeah, they can just come in and talk to whoever and pull it, right? And then,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
And I think we ought to table it and give the Fair Board a chance to do what they want to do.
Get the paperwork or whatever we need from you or whatever it is.
All right.
I'm gonna make that motion.
Motion from Gesme to table item A.
Second?
Second from Diane. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is tabled. Item B, Bethel's Rock Church, application for zoning text amendment. Zach?
Thanks, Verlin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bethel's Rock Church is applying for an ordinance text amendment to amend the code in the B2 district to allow religious institutions via a CUP. In your packet, you'll see the zoning regulations in surrounding communities and how religious institutions are zoned in their respective cities. Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval at their last meeting. And just like any amendment, I think it's important to refer to City Code 152057 when making your decision, but I'm here if you guys have any questions about it.
All right. Discussion and questions from the council familiar with the Bethel's Rock Church application. No discussion?
I just want to publicly thank Zach for doing a really fine job on giving us two resolutions with findings of facts, so that whatever we do tonight is done and we don't have to bring it back again. So, good job, Zach. Thank you.
Okay, so if we vote in favor of this, we still have to make an application for a CUP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a motion?
Well, I just wanted to add, I think a lot of people have done their homework. I've had a lot of input from citizens of Cannon Falls, and they're wishing to, I guess I've not really heard anything against this text amendment, and I think, that being said, I'm gonna make a motion to allow the text amendment, or to approve, let's see, I'm on the wrong page.
Ordinance 405, Steve.
Okay, what Neil said.
So motion from Gesme to approve Bethel's Rock Church application for zoning text amendment.
Mr. Mayor
Yes.
and Councilmember Gasme, what I would recommend is, given that text amendment is a change to the zoning code, we need to proceed along the paths of an ordinance. So to be consistent with the charter requirements as well, you've got half of the motion correct to approve the application. And then I would also approve the first reading of the ordinance, provided everyone's read the ordinance, because that will go into the books as written unless you have any changes. If no changes, then the motion should be that dual fold, approve the application and the first reading.
And the first reading.
Yes, thank you.
Make a motion to approve the text amendment change in the first reading of the, we don't have a number though, right? 405.
So motion from Steve to approve Bethel's Rock Church application for zoning text amendment and item 405. First reading. Ordinance 405, first reading.
Second?
Second from Diane. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Gets us to our reports. Did the Joint Powers Trail Board meet?
Yes, a couple times.
Great.
I wasn't able to go to Friday, so I'll let.
Yeah.
If you can.
We're still discussing mile 14 and mile 16 slope failure, how to fix it. Been working with WHKS, and out of 4 options, we picked one, the single wall something, I don't know. I didn't bring my notes. We've had some long
That's
meetings.
all right, that's all right.
And it's gonna happen. We applied for a grant. Fingers crossed that we get it, and we'll be able to fix it and keep our trail.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No others, so we'll just go right around the horn. Jed?
Mayor and council, projects are moving along. Our Third Street project, all the storm is installed. They should be starting to grade streets and hopefully preparing to do curb and whatnot in the next couple of weeks as it is progressing. John Birch Park, the roof on third base dugout was poured last week. They've dug I don't know if they've poured the foundation yet, but they've dug a hole and getting ready for the first base dugout foundation, and the wall looks amazing. So,
Yeah.
if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it's looking great. So that's moving right along. Hardwood Estates, they paved the neighborhood, Hardwood Estates neighborhood. They're working on the turn lane, and 72nd Avenue Way should be getting curb and road prep probably this week and next, so.
All right.
And then Timber Ridge, they've paved and a couple homes are being framed, so moving right along. Any other questions for me?
All right. Thanks, Jed.
Thank you.
Zach?
Yeah, can't believe I'm saying this already, but I'm getting ready to send out renewals for liquor licenses, tobacco licenses, that sort of thing, probably next month. So anybody who's local business in town, it will be sent via mail, and I just appreciate it if you could send it sooner rather than later, but that's about it.
All right. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, if you recall, earlier this spring, you approved a whole slew of street closures for different events that occur here in Cannon Falls. One of the nice things about those is the organizers typically contact us about a month in advance, just touching base, letting us know if their needs have changed, that type of stuff. We had one of those conversations today and discovered that there was an oversight in the memo that we put before you guys. The Sogan Valley Art Fair was not included in that. If you want to take action this evening to approve it, I'm fine with that. If you'd prefer that I write up a memo, I certainly can do that. It's an event that we've done for 5 or 6 years, I believe. I would not expect it to not be approved. However, they're about a month out. There'll be October 4th.
Did they close down Veterans Lane behind the VFW? There?
Yep. And so we don't want to put them in a position where they're just unsure it's going to be approved, but I certainly understand if council chooses to have me bring it back in 2 weeks.
Council, do you prefer to take action tonight or put it on consent agenda for the next meeting? We can do it right now, or we can.
Yeah, let's do it now.
All right.
So the request would be to close Veterans Lane between Mill Street and 4th Street from October 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. It would close Friday evening, the 4th, so they could get set up. Be closed Saturday, closed Sunday until that evening when they tear down and then reopen the street.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve closing down Veterans Lane for the Sogan Valley Art Fair in early October.
So moved.
Motion from Lisa,
Second.
second from Laura. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Anything else, Chief?
That's the biggest thing, so
All right.
I'll save it for the next one.
Thank you. Shelley?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Sarah? Neil?
Sarah?
Laura?
Nope.
Lisa?
Nada.
Public Works
Ryan?
drop
Nope.
before the end of the
Derek?
day.
Diane?
Nope.
Steve?
No.
I got nothing. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion from Gesme,
Second.
second from Jepson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.